All right. So now we're recording. And now we're going to pee those threes right on time. Okay. I think this is going to work. That's actually the dialogue that happens right before the Incredible Hulk roller coaster at Islands of Adventure in Orlando. Deep cut. Let's go. The Politics podcast is brought to you by... Now, normally, what happens is I go through a laundry list. 3 things, specifically, and I will name them right now. Patreon.com/JURY. Stickers, or DIAF. TheContender.us. Now, they are all very, very, very important. However, I want to make this point right now. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville. Not Louisville. Not Louisville. No. Louisville. Now, why? No. Okay. So, see, normally, I'm in Oakland, California. There was a former life in where I was all over the place. I would do this show wherever I could do it. But right now, for the first time ever, I am doing this show in a place that's not by home, by choice. And you want to know why? It's because what you guys who are here watching this right now can't see is that the people behind you are the people that made this happen. They have come out right now to come see this show. This show is happening because of patreon.com/JURY. Now, I don't want to go on a monologue here, but I did have something happen. We were watching, we were here in Louisville, and in this little place in time, the great Muhammad Ali died. He was eulogized today in his home city of Louisville. And Bill Clinton was eulogizing him, and he said that Muhammad Ali was somebody that refused to have his story written for him, that he was going to write his own story. Now, he is obviously an icon and an amazing person that deserves to have all the hosannas sung for him that can be sung. However, there is just a little bit of inspiration that I take from that. And I took from that when hearing it, because while I am here, I have to think that for this 7 people right now, there is a expectation and promise that what people can do artistically is different fundamentally because of the internet in general and Patreon in specific. Because literally, why else would I be doing this show in a living room for 6 people and be so excited about it? Like, I am so pumped to be here. I'm going to be so pumped to be in Cincinnati tomorrow. I'm going to be so pumped to be in Chicago the day after that. So, of course, you should go buy The Contender at thecontender.us. Of course, you should go buy stickers at Stickers or DIAF. Exclusive Jury in Your House stickers available through Sunday. But I want this one to go out to literally everybody who has supported patreon.com/JURY. This one absolutely is for you.
Politics.
This is where you guys can cheer. You guys... You keep it going. Yes. Politics. Man, I feel like we really were having a moment. We are writing this line, ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening to this or watching this right now on YouTube, that we are writing this line between this is the most awkward thing ever or this is the most awesome thing ever. And right now it is 50-50, and we are going to do our best to push it to 51-49. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is the Politics podcast, the first time ever done live from a living room in Louisville, Kentucky. Gigantic week in politics. Here is the big news. I just want to let everybody know what the big news is. Hillary Clinton, she kind of followed a 4-step plan over the last 2 weeks. I told any listener to this show understands that Hillary Clinton was moving much like the aliens in Independence Day. You know, like they had a plan and they were executing on it. And by the time that everybody realized that Jeff Goldblum was like, the TV, I don't know. Yeah, the signal, it's counting down. By the time he realized it, they were already on step 3. And I feel like that's what, so of our initial live audience, how many Bernie fans here? Are there any Bernie fans in the house? Ladies and gentlemen, we're in Kentucky. I just want to let you know. I'm not used to that. I live in California. Normally when I say, are there any Bernie fans in the house? Somebody's doing a backflip. It's like the Newsies. Like people are swinging on chandeliers. Not here. Well, then allow me to tell you. I come from the coast and I tell you of Bernie fans. Bernie fans did not see this coming. They were like Jeff Goldblum in Independence Day. They were like, oh no. Well, no, we have a shot. They didn't realize that by the time they saw danger, they were already on step 4. Hillary Clinton was. Here are the steps. Step number 1, completely render Bernie irrelevant by moving on substantively to the general election. She did this last week when she decided to give a big speech about Donald Trump. She took on Trump effectively, and in what is hilarious, this is my favorite new thing of the election. Hillary Clinton pilloried earlier for being out of touch, a weird out of touch grandma deciding to whip and nay, embarrassing her children. Now, doing the exact same stuff. Yay! Before, boo! Now, yay! I'm going to give you this example. Hillary Clinton went out and a couple months ago had a thing. It was like, Hillary Clinton is your abuela. Abuela, for the whites in the audience, is Spanish for grandma. This was about as awkward as me explaining that's abuela is Spanish for grandma, coming from Hillary Clinton. Oh my God, what an embarrassing old lady. Oh Jesus, look at this. The absolute epitome of white awkwardness. Just shambling around, trying to skateboard with a backwards hat. And now, she goes after Donald Trump. And everyone's like, oh snap, you go girl. That's it. Donald Trump claps back at her. Delete your account, she writes. Delete your account. What'd the kids say? Do me a favor. We don't have, since we are live, by the way, right now, I'm looking into this camera. We are live from this Louisville living room. I don't have the opportunity to show you video as freely as I would normally, but just go ahead and look up the CNBC highlight of a bunch of stodgy old whites being like, delete your account. What is a delete your? What is? It's what? Yeah, apparently it's what the kids say, and it should be nana boo boo. Literally, that's what the guy says. As if you could compound it. I don't know if you compound enough awkward, a black hole forms, and we all just go, whew. So Hillary Clinton. Now super cool because she's in the general election. But this is what she wanted, right? Because before, she was the impediment for the more popular Bernie Sanders amongst the left-leaning voters. And now, as she moved forward, she says, okay, how do I just eliminate this clinging Bernie remora fish to all of my hopes and dreams? Let me just knock that off, right? So she first decides, okay, I'm just going to go hard against Trump. And so now, any Berniness will just like, she will apply a salve to the burn and it will now be cooled. That was step 1. Step 2 was Monday night, before the votes on Tuesday. declare victory. And indeed, that's what she did. Well, I mean, not she. Technically, it was the Associated Press. That, who knows, as if they had been directed to a bunch of superdelegates that were going to say on the record that they were voting for Hillary. Who knows who set that up? They decide, hey, you want to know what, based on our reporting, literally the day before the votes on Tuesday, that Hillary Clinton will be your nominee. Now, it bears mentioning that there is nothing wrong with this. There is literally nothing wrong with this. In fact, the AP just reported the facts. It is when the facts were reported that bears watching. Because again, this is just like the crinkle in the screen in Independence Day. This is just that little like, oh my God, hey, did you notice that was weird? Hey, wait, isn't it kind of weird that the AP decided to report that on like Monday morning and not like Friday afternoon or Saturday or Sunday? Theoretically, this is hot breaking news. Why would they do it after 5 p.m. on Monday? It's almost as if they wanted the first story in the Tuesday morning paper to be that Hillary had already clinched the Democratic nomination. Man, isn't that weird? Step 3. Now, this one's a bonus for Hillary. Actually winning the elections. So she dominates in New Jersey. She dominates in California. She goes ahead and just mops the floor with Bernie in both of those elections. I'm not going to spend that much time on those because, let's be fair, elections, semi-important. Actual voting, I mean, if you're doing all right, but she was leading both in delegates, pledged delegates, voted delegates, and in super delegates. So, the voting's okay. But you want to know what? On every cake, there may be icing. And indeed, that was step 3 for Hillary Clinton. Step 4. And this is the big one. This is where even if step 3 goes awry, even if step 3 is a disaster and she wins slimmer than she was expecting in New Jersey, where she was already expected to win, and loses in California, where it was being polled as close, even if that's the case, she had step number 4 waiting on Wednesday. And that is a nomination from a man you and me might know as the president of the United States of America. Now, normally, when the president of the United States of America, the sitting president, endorses somebody who is from their own party, it is a fairly big thing. In fact, it is the synonymous end of the primary. Now, make no mistake that if step 3 had gone the opposite way for Hillary, she still would have gotten that endorsement on Wednesday. That was coming. Like, that was already done. It was a wrap. This was from pillar to post. I can only describe it as the following. Hillary Clinton writing in on what I can just go ahead, follow me, in your mind's eye, right? Yeah, everybody, even here, like, close your eyes, right? Imagine this, right? Hillary Clinton, a big Arabian stallion, blinding white, riding through the sands, brandishes a gigantic, fearsome scimitar, and lops off the head of Bernie Sanders. Now, when I say lops it off, it comes in with such tremendous force that it pops up like a malfunctioning Pez dispenser. His head does. Straight up, pop fly to center, right? She just grabs it by the hair and then, like Satchel Paige, like big leg kick, throws it at Donald Trump. That's exactly what happened. Now, what happens when Bernie Sanders, old, wrinkled face, decapitated, lands near Donald Trump? Well, in comparison, Hillary Clinton had a very, very surgically precise week. She had a multi-step plan, and I think objectively you could say, politically, she achieved on all of them. She then threw the head of her vanquished enemy at her new general election foe, Donald Trump, showing that she will take no guff. This is a fearsome opponent. And that head whizzed over toward Donald and totally missed him, because Donald was not standing in battle position. Instead, he was arguing with a brook for babbling the wrong way. Donald Trump, instead of actually doing things that would benefit his campaign for presidency, has spent the last week and a half picking a fight with a judge who is judging him for fraud. Now, let me make this point. There is a way, a very, very, very reasonable political way, that you can attack that judge. A lot of ways to do it. In fact, the Clintons, famous for this. The Clinton machine, famous for finding enemies and punishing them. Okay? There is no world that we can think of that does not include the Clintons being vengeful, weird people who want to grind those who oppose them into a fine dust that they can then clap LeBron James-esque as it floats above them. In fact, that's what I think if Hillary wins if she wins the presidency, that's what it's going to be. She's going to have her hand up. She's going to swear in as president. And then she's going to clap the chalked bones of her enemies as they fly into the dusk of D.C. But Trump, for whatever reason, does not own a sniper rifle. He only owns one of those like World War II Gatling guns, like that has like the big belt chains. That's it. It's like, oh, this guy, he thinks that you're an asshole. Get the Gatling gun. This guy ripped you off in business. Get the Gatling gun. This guy cut you off in traffic. Get the Gatling gun. He goes after this guy. So here's how if the Clintons were going to go after this guy, here's how the Clintons would go after this guy. Number one, don't. As much as you hate him, understand that you are as close as, well, all but one other person to being the president of the United States. At which point, you are beyond reproach, and you can literally punish whoever you want in any manner of ways, soft and hard. You can say, hey, look, you don't have a job anymore. Why? Because I'm the president. LOL. Close screen. Or you can just say, hey, I really hate this guy. I wish somebody would make him lose his job, and then he would magically lose his job. So first, you don't do it. Why don't you do it? Well, it's because you don't want to have it be a legitimized talking point that you are being sued for fraud. It's a bad sounding crime. You're not being sued for a tax lien. That's an innocuous sounding crime. You're leaning the wrong way. We all lean the wrong way. Lean left, lean right. I hate my taxes. Hey, you should fight it. Fraud. Bad sounding crime. It's the optics on it are terrible. Oh, he's the president. Really? Yeah, he's being sued for fraud. That's a terrible sentence. You never want that to be following your campaign to lead the free world. But let's say you were insistent. And I do believe that Donald Trump he feels in his core that he is being treated unfairly. And let's even follow along where that goes, that he is being treated unfairly. I have not looked at the case. Truth be told, I have not looked at the case myself to know whether or not he has being treated unfairly. But let's just go ahead and assume he has, right? You, as a candidate for president, I'm imagining there are multiple mics around me right now. Like this is like a press conference. You do not say it yourself. You are running for president. You have a calisar of people behind you looking to curry favor because you are about to become the most powerful person in the world. One of them can go on MSNBC and say, that judge is a racist. One of them. One of them can. You do not need to be the one to say it. And specifically, you do not need to be the one to say it because your entire point to get over the fact that you are being publicly maligned as being racist toward Mexicans, your defense for that, which I think is more something that people need to look at and not necessarily dismiss, is that I am not racist against Mexicans. I am very concerned about illegal immigrants. And therefore, Mexicans who are here legally, who I love, they're great. They're great. So many. They're great. I love them. Gorditas, the best. So many of them legally immigrated Mexicans are on my side because they're more pissed off about illegal Mexicans than we are. That's his point. So you can't then say to a legally born in America to Mexican parents judge, hey, you can't do your job because you're Mexican. Now, you can say he is being unfair to me because he believes that we should not build a wall. Ah, here we go. Now we understand where we are being. It's like, man, how did that hole wind up in my foot? Huh. Is it? Oh, look, it's this gun I have in my hand. That's crazy. I guess I must have shot myself in the foot with this gun. That's nuts. Okay. Well, let me think it back. Okay, so if I didn't say he can't do his job because he's Mexican, but instead said he, and listen, there are legitimate ties to him and La Raza for which you can make this a legitimate, at least for cable news, argument that he doesn't believe we should build a wall. He doesn't believe that we should be tough on illegal immigration, and therefore he is being unfair to me. Now, doesn't that sound like a more reasonable argument? Doesn't that sound like you are going to build a larger case for why you should run the country? That does. And in fact, if you want to go further, you can say, man, those Clintons don't stop, do they? Those Clintons don't stop. Now they've got the judges that are in their pockets trying to come at me because I am a threat to them. Look at what they do. Now you tie that to your larger narrative of quote unquote crooked Hillary. Oh man, oh my God. Now you've weaved an embarrassment to yourself, to the person you're running against for president. You know, or you could just call him Mexican. You know, it's like one or the other, 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other. So Donald Trump decides to just tilt at windmills, and it's a bad week for Donald Trump. The other problem with this is that if you're being sued for fraud and you yourself are bringing it into the public eye, then you are legitimizing stories like what came out of the USA Today yesterday. Man, that's a weird phrase. That's a weird sentence. The USA Today yesterday. USA Today, which I'm sure made a very compelling argument in under 250 words, wrote a story about all the contractors, people that were not paid or had sued Donald Trump. Now, to be fair, in politics, contractors who are unpaid happen all the time. You know, because shock, right? Political campaigns, not usually solvent businesses. You know, they're short-term operations that very oftentimes just kind of go belly up. And then at the end of the day, if you're the person who's like, oh man, I got this great $8,000 deal to drop balloons. Anyway, who's here to pay me? Oh, no one's answering the phone at Dukakis headquarters. I wonder why. It's because they're not here to be open after the election. Now, Trump's a little bit different because he has been in business and not been in politics. But in general, that's not really that big of a story. Why is it a story? Because Trump's out here talking about his fraud case. Because he wants to be right. And I don't know if that is getting in the way of him being smart. I think he's a smart guy. I don't know if he can be smart enough to understand that he doesn't have to always be right. Because the Clintons are thin-skinned, and he's well matched for them. But if he doesn't stick to the facts, if he doesn't stick to his facts, if he doesn't stick to his argument, if he doesn't prosecute his case against the Hillary Clinton and the Clintons in general, man, this one might be over. And I might be over quick. One more thing that I did want to talk about. And this is my final point on this. Now, I know a lot of you guys are here because you are in this neck of the woods. I'm very, very excited that you guys came out. How many people listen to the Politics show in general? All right, there we go. We got most of them. Did you guys hear my episode where I gave cogent advice for all of the candidates based on the classic film From Dusk Till Dawn? One candidate listened to me. One candidate did not. Donald Trump. I quoted from the great Harvey Keitel, "Are you so much of a loser that you can't tell when you've won?" This is Donald Trump. And yet, while he has won and he has bent the Republican National Committee around his 7-Eleven sausage link finger, he apparently doesn't realize that means he is the guy. And so he continues to tilt at these windmills and fight with people way lower than him when he needs to be looking upward and start swinging as hard as he can. But Hillary listened. You're welcome, Hillary. Because I said that Hillary's lesson was that of Salma Hayek's. Not when she was sticking her foot in Quentin Tarantino's mouth, but rather when she had transformed into her true vampire self. And she was on top of George Clooney. And she let him know that she wasn't going to turn him. She would half turn him. She would feed him scraps and make him eat on carrion flesh because she was going to make him her dog. And the final phrase that I quoted from Salma Hayek to George Clooney was "welcome to slavery." And that's exactly what she did this week. She left no doubt that this was going to be her time. No bespectacled boffin independent socialist. No weird muscle car driving, jean jorts wearing Joe Biden. No weird Rachel Maddow #1 guest Elizabeth Warren. Nah. Get behind the pantsuit, folks, because the only narrative that is happening for Hillary Clinton's world is first female president. And get used to saying it, because you need to enunciate when you are in the presence of Madam President. She looked in the eyes of the DNC and she said, "Welcome to slavery. And I will frog march all y'all weirdos into the White House if I have to." It was a forceful week by her. But doesn't really guarantee anything. Because, we still do have a general election. So, if we're all here, and we are just all hanging out here in person. Normally I'm just by myself. But, there is a segment, the most popular segment on this show, where we ask everybody to go ahead and get ready for a Oh my God. This poll comes in from a PPP poll in Pennsylvania from June 3rd through the 5th, a sample of 1,106 registered voters, margin of error of 3%. Let's welcome first to the stage. He has a haircut as weird as his body type. It is Mar-a-Lago's own Donald Trump, 44%. But your co-headliner, she is the Lord of the pantsuit. She is the former senator from New York. She is the former Secretary of State. You could shoot a bullet into her hair and it would stop before it got to the roots. Ladies and gentlemen, Hillary Clinton at 44%. Oh. Dead heat in the swing state of Pennsylvania. Does that mean something significant? No, not really. This is still an early poll. However, all right. So here, yeah. Get on the floor if you got that booty. We're all going to the titty bar. Okay. So here's where things get interesting, because Donald Trump had his big moment wherein he arose triumphant, biceps rippling with the sinewed flesh of Ben Carson and the flabby carcass of Chris Christie just hanging over his head. He just, throws Marco Rubio's torso up in the air and punches it like a piñata as Pitbull CDs flew out of it. And Trump had a really, really good week in the polls. You saw him up over Hillary Clinton nationally. You saw him look very, very competitive in a lot of swing states. But next week's polls are really going to start to tell where we're going. Because Hillary Clinton's going to get a boost, and we're going to see where that boost is. And at that point, you can really start to measure where the boosts from here in the campaign are going to go. Because normally there's a few. There's two more for each candidate. Candidate will each get a boost in, and it's going to be interesting to see in the swing states where they swing, but they'll get a boost when they announce a running mate. They'll get a boost when they go to their conventions. Unless the conventions are a total poop show. Now, it looked like Cleveland for the Republicans was going to be a total poop show, and people were wondering whether or not Trump would get to 1237. He got far past that. He is now the unquestioned nominee. However, during all this week, when he's out here, calling everybody Mexicans and saying that they can't judge right, he saw some of the Republican establishment splinter off. I don't think that's going to be a major issue. Unless something else comes up. And folks, when you're dealing with Donald Trump, there's always a chance that something else is going to come up. So there's that. The Democratic convention can only go south in one way. And that is if everyone's favorite mad scientist, Bernie Sanders, decides that he indeed is going to try to invent flubber in Philadelphia and will try to contest the nomination. I don't think that will happen. He had a sit down with President Obama this week, and I assume President Obama said, stop. I imagine they all sat down. It was like in the Rose Garden, and And like, somebody in aid came over to Bernie. What would you like? And he's like, I would like a tea. I would also like a crumpet. And they sat down and he got his food and he got his drink and everything. And then the president just sat down and said like, oh, stop it. And then just got up and left. And he threw down a ninja smoke bomb and just like vanished into the White House. So I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. But this is what you need to do. Start to watch the polls, as I will, and we will talk about on this podcast, in the following states: Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin. Also, if they start to tilt to Hillary, start to look at states like Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. These are states that if they start tilting toward Hillary, this thing might be over quick. And if you are rooting for an absolute riot in Cleveland, you want to see hard polls showing that Hillary is beating Trump, because at that point, the Republican establishment will start to saber rattle and say, dude, we're about to get blown out. This thing is an embarrassment. Let's just try to flip it to, I don't know, like, Bob Dole, or, like a Chuck E. Cheese version of Ronald Reagan, and he'll like come out and say it's morning in America and then play, roll over Beethoven. All right, let's go ahead and get to your emails. I'm kicking over things. Man, we went so long without a major embarrassment. You can always send your emails to justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Again, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Oh, yeah, and Florida. Of course, you have to look at Florida. Florida is a very important state to look at. Matthew writes, I'm a Christian listener and thought you would find the following information interesting. A bit of background. Number one, church I go to is large and next to a Christian college. Number two, the county I'm in is so Republican, Democrats don't even run against Republicans for local positions. The head of the Republican Party, who is also the sheriff, has been indicted by a grand jury, movie-level story, and the local politicians just say it is a mistake and don't worry about it. So it makes it extra interesting that the list of pastors are saying that a Christian can't morally vote for Trump and may need to go Hillary or some third party. With those conversations in mind, I was blown away by this email. Well, thank you. I always appreciate the evangelical listeners to this show, because I don't think there are a lot of other people who will make Chuck E. Cheese references derisively about presidents that also have an evangelical following. So I always appreciate you guys. Cody Wright, I discovered all your shows in podcast form on my long road trip for my business. I applaud your success so far with the show. Big fan, nice beard, yada, yada. Well, thanks. I have an odd theory that the other day listening to your show that might more and more make sense as you see the mismanagement of Trump's campaign heading into the general. Maybe he was never planning on taking it this far. Maybe Trump's end goal all along would have been, if he had to drop out earlier, to run with the conflict of interest on Curiel, since he saw no way to get out of the lawsuit. Trump was banking on the conflict of interest since from the start, considering, in his mind, in the primary assault to his brand. Trump said inflammatory comments about in his announcement speech that happened to be the heritage of the judge that is presiding over the Trump U case. I've jokingly referred to it as the dating the judge's daughter gambit. If you want to look at it as in a chess move sense, as it is in some way to get a conflict of interest after the fact in the case. If there is no conflict of interest, then create one. It probably would have worked if it weren't for those pesky, unexpected Republican primary popularity. I think he got caught up with it, and that's where we all stand. I don't like the Trump is doing this, that like Trump doesn't want this narrative. Because, of course he wants it. He wants it all. This is a guy who thought while he was, deciding whether or not, Trace Atkins or Penn Jillette was a better fake employee for him, that I should be president. These were like coexisting thoughts. Now, I don't say that derisively. I say that to understand that he is an ambitious human. He thinks that he can do anything. And there's a lot admirable to that, by the way. Like, for whatever you think about him as a human, like, there is no doubt that he has a gigantic storage of American ambition hidden in whatever size testicles he has. And he draws from it liberally. However, it never really, he doesn't seem to me like a guy who gets out smart. In his business dealings, he has always taken this win at any cost kind of attitude. And he's let big, easy business deals slide through his fingers because he needed to be right about something. So I don't buy at all that he doesn't want this. I think he wants every single bit of it. Now, will he jackknife his chances because he wants to be right and not smart? That, to me, seems like more of his play. And finally, Commander Fish writes, as the Democratic primary draws to a close, there's this sentiment that's been bouncing around in my left-leaning friends that I want your thoughts on. It's that the Clinton camp isn't actually trying to win over Sanders supporters at all. The message is, in essence, now's the time to be good little soldiers and fall in line. As if Clinton is entitled to Sanders supporters without actually working for it. As you pointed out last week, she's already tacking to the right and pivoting towards the centrist and right-leaning independents. I see two ways of looking at this. The standard third wave New Democrat thinking goes that independents on the left of the Democratic Party don't matter, and they can point to the fact that Clinton still won the primary and is still in pole position in the general as proof of this. Some of them will stay home or vote green and protest, but you'll pick up enough to finish the job. The alternative I'll propose is that the marquee reason as to why turnout is so terrible among many parts of the Democratic base, young people, working class, is that they're consistently being ignored by the party platform and messaging, and they have been for decades. When somebody like Bernie Sanders finally starts speaking to these groups, the primary became closer than it ever should have been. Commander Fish, cheers to you. And you're absolutely right, except I like my phrase better. Welcome to slavery. Like, it's, okay, so do you want to be for the first female president, or do you want to hate women? There's your choices, and you can pick up on the left or the right, and there you go. Okay, so we have our hashtag I'm with her, or hashtag vaginas are the devil's work. You can do one or the other as far as Hillary Clinton is concerned. And like, I'm being flippant about it, obviously, but like, she doesn't care about Sanders supporters, or at least Sanders supporters that aren't going to support the first female president. That's a Democrat. That's been, that is from the machine of the most famous Democrat winners in the last 25 years. It's not named Obama. Like, that's from the Obama campaign that is saying she's running for a third term of Obama. Like, she is the best combination of Democrat winner that she could possibly be. So her point is, if you can't dig on that, then she's got two words for you. Suck it. And that, I believe, ladies and gentlemen, might be a wrap on our first ever living room edition of the Politics podcast. Of course, everybody, you can email me, JustinRobertYoung at gmail.com. You can follow me on Snapchat, Justin R. Young, or on Twitter, Justin R. Young the same. You can pick up those stickers at Stickers or DIAF. You can buy The Contender, including the 2016 expansion pack at thecontender.us. And of course, you can support this show at patreon.com/JURY. Can I hear it from Louisville? Remember, folks, some people talk about politics. Some people talk about politics. I like to talk about politics. See you next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
And I'll tell you what, we're actually going to keep it going for a little bit. Does anybody have any political questions at all? I should have probably set this up beforehand. Like, I don't want it to necessarily be like the most awkward thing ever. If anybody has any political questions here in the room, we can do that as a little bonus content. Or if everybody just sure, yeah.
No, I was thinking, like, when you were when you were talking about Trump last week, like, I don't think it's any surprise in the chat room that I tend to vote Republican, and like I could not agree with you more when you were saying like, like the Trump statements that he's making, just make me want to slam my head against the wall every time he talks. Like,
yeah, I mean, so here's the biggest thing. Hillary and the Clinton machine combined. I mean, because it works in both ways, right? Hillary is saying to Democrats, "I am Clinton plus Obama equals vote for me," and on the Democratic side, that's a tremendous brand. On the Republican side, it's the literal inverse. It's like, I am Satan plus Hitler. Please throw holy water on me, right? So there is a tremendous urge from conservative voters that want to say, like, literally, like, we don't care. Like, this is like in Batman, the Dark Knight Returns, when it's just like, oh yeah, it's like they turned to a man that they didn't understand. It's like, no, we get him. Yeah, he's the Joker. He's an anarchist. He'll light all the money on fire. Whatever. Can you beat Batman? Can you please beat Batman? It doesn't matter. We don't care. Can you please do it? And then after a while, you just realize, like, man, initially it's like, yeah, he's not a politician. Isn't that great? We hate politicians. Look at, the numbers on is the country going in the wrong direction? Look at how low we rate Congress. We hate politicians. We think they are leading us astray. And now you're like, oh, man, you not a politician? Like, you're just like, oh, we liked it when it was this other thing, but now, and again, like, I think it is harmful to paint conservatives in any kind of broad brush, because as much as Trump wants to jump up and down and say, look at how many votes I got in the primary, that's not a sign that people are passionate about you. More votes in a primary does not mean more passion. More votes in a primary means that you are in a more competitive primary. And that they're like, because also you can say more people voted against Trump than any other Republican candidate. So, I think at this point, we were joking around with Marco Rubio a couple weeks ago that Marco Rubio is literally just like, hey, if you hate Trump and you hate the fact that I'm going to now support him, then guess what? I ran against him. Did you run? Everybody raise their hand if you ran against him. Okay. Oh, is it me? Oh, okay. Gotcha. So I think you need to raise up off my nuts. Like, and so I think that's the frustration that are there for conservatives right now, is just kind of realizing that there was this hope that after he got the nomination and he started saying really nice things about all the people he was really, really mean to, and he sat down with Paul Ryan and they, played foosball or whatever, and, said nice things about each other's foreheads. And then, you're like, okay. And then Paul Ryan endorses him. Look at that. Hooray. And then he's like, hey, look at this Mexican judge. Hashtag, am I right? And that's just the general frustration that I see, at least, with my conservative friends and the conservative media that I read. It's not never Trump now. It's like, please stop. Hashtag, come on, guy. Like, at this point, you really did it. You won fair and square. Can you please just put on your plate armor and go fight the people that we need to fight, and not. Can you just be an adult now? Well, that's the problem. I mean, like, he's going to be Trump, and whether or not, there's only two ways that this story ends. Either A, the Republican Party has to face gigantic, huge questions of, is the direction of this party going to correct itself after Trump, or are we just a fractured group and nobody will bring us together? Or Trump wins and it's like, Ha! The wily genius got it after all. Like, this is the kind of out-of-the-box thinking you can only get from the Republicans. Because, on the other side, again, this is the most authoritarian step in line or be crushed Democratic candidate that we've seen ever. You know, we've said this on this podcast a million times. It used to be, Republicans fall in line, Democrats fall in love. And this is the exact opposite, because Democrats are the one marching in, funny formation, and the Republicans are the ones that are just, at least the ones that love Trump are, gaga. They're, the diamond and silk YouTube girls, that are just like talking all kinds of crazy noise about literally anybody who says anything about Trump. Any other thoughts, concerns, complaints? Huh? All right. Then we can only end this live edition, the first ever live edition of Politics, with the following sentence. Ladies and gentlemen, please clap. I got you, Jeb.